Hi, I'm Nina Bawala. I'm the co-founder here at Cyberlight, and I'm really excited to tell you more about the Classroom Toolkit, unlocking generative AI safely and responsibly. Cyberlight is based here in Singapore, and our mission is to provide sustainable and equitable cyber and AI education for children from the age of 7 to 17 years of age. We empower everyone to be safe online, which includes helping educators understand how to use and teach new technology like generative AI in a safe and a responsible manner. We have developed this toolkit in conjunction and partnership with Microsoft for teachers and students to use alike. We understand that Microsoft is incredibly committed to empowering young people with the digital literacy skills, resilience, to use new technologies responsibly and safely as part of an approach to responsible AI. And Cyberlight is in complete agreement with this. We can see the power of generative AI and how it can provide a sustainable and equitable education to children across the globe. But it must be done in a responsible manner with an understanding of the risks and how to mitigate those risks, and providing educators across the globe with the right resources to have this conversation before bringing generative AI to our children. So let's get started with introducing what is actually in the toolkit. The toolkit in itself is incredibly versatile in its nature and can be used in several ways. First of all, you have the main PPT, which is incredibly rich with content, and there's a lot to it. So we'll go through that in a moment. To support the PPT, we have the Teacher's Guide PDF. The PDF is created to establish the lesson structure that can work for the educator. Our own recommendation is to use the PPT over a series of lessons structured for 30 minutes in 3 parts. We recommend this because we are in an incredibly unique situation where teachers and students are learning at the same time and at the same pace. So this allows for learning, going away, experimenting and reiterating, and coming back and having open discussions on our learnings and really understand critically what went right and what went wrong. The next thing we have is a classroom agreement, and this is created to empower educators to bring in generative AI in a safe and responsible manner. Use this as a foundation, and as your school develops, bring in policies and new concepts, you can build on this. But this is a great way of establishing boundaries at day one. And lastly, we have the elements of a good prompt. We often find schools, educators, and students tell us, we've tried generative AI tools and they've just not worked for us. What it often means is they are using generative AI in an old established way of searching as a search engine, as we have done for so long. When you're using generative AI, the outcome is on what we prompt it to do, and prompting is a skill. By having this PDF up in your classroom allows for people to go back, have a look at the main foundational points of a prompt, and come back and again experiment and reiterate until they get the right results for them. As you can see from the toolkit, as you go through it, there are a lot of try it yourselves. This is because we believe learning generative AI is best done by experimenting, trying things out, and coming back and having an open discussion. However, you do not need to do all of these try it yourselves. It's optional, and you can dabble, do some of them, change them to suit the nature or the context of the conversation you're having in school. Use it again as a foundation. We have written the toolkit for the ages of 13 to 15 years of age. The reason we do that is many generative AI tools have established the rights of use for over the age of 13. Those under 13 should not be using the product. We are aware that children under the age of 13 are using generative AI. However, the toolkit is written and the conversations and the dialogue is for those over the age of 13. And if your school is new to generative AI, this is a great place to start before introducing anything to younger age groups. As you go through the PPT as well, you'll see we have bookmarked several slides to capture key learning points. We recommend you pause on these slides and use it as an opportunity to have a discussion with your students to talk through safe and responsible use. So how do we get started? Before you get started, we recommend getting set up on Copilot. How to do that is to first sign up for a Microsoft account if you don't have one already. Then you can access Copilot through the Microsoft Edge browser. This is the easiest way to access it. If you need more information, we do recommend you go to the Microsoft website to find out more. This toolkit is incredibly versatile. You can use it to inform educators who have very little or no experience of generative AI on where to start, setting the foundations of understanding, ensuring when they do utilize it within their day, that they do so, understand the risks that are involved in using generative AI. You can also use this toolkit to bring it straight to the student. We find for those who have little understanding of generative AI, it's probably because they're apprehensive to use it. And the best way to get over that apprehension is to understand the efficiency behind the tools that we recommend. Therefore, there are lots of try it yourselves throughout this toolkit that can be used directly with educators or with the students themselves. You will hear us talk about experimenting and reiterating a lot as we go through this presentation. So do take the time to try things out. What we will guide you through is an introduction to generative AI, understanding what a prompt is, and take time to master the skill of prompting and how to utilize that to get the best results for us. The beautiful thing about generative AI is incredibly different for all of us. And then you'll be introduced to two characters. When writing this, we wanted to ensure this toolkit had an element of storytelling. Storytelling is a great way for people to understand how these tools can be used outside of the classroom and in the workday for people who are utilizing it through their careers. The two characters that we'll bring to you is Gina, who has a fight for the ocean. Gina is a journalist and she's looking to investigate an article and using these tools to help her. And then you'll come across a second character as we go through the workshop, and he is very different in style. He is a gamer who really enjoys gaming and wants to bring one of his ideas to life. We see how they use these tools as co-pilots, but we also understand that they come across a lot of issues on the way with using these products. And those issues are what we want to highlight to educators and to the students themselves. So we invite you as educators on this journey to give it a go through the toolkit and see how approachable and friendly it is. The toolkit is designed for those of the age of 13 to 15 years of age, and for them to understand the risks and safety and the mental well-being that's required when using these products. So please do enjoy this, bring curiosity, bring your ideas, and see how you can utilize this. To get started, you will need some tools on your devices. We recommend you use Microsoft Edge, Microsoft account. If you have a Microsoft account, it will help you access Microsoft Copilot and the image creator. And Microsoft Teams for Education, you can access Search Coach. An OpenAI account using ChatGPT and DALL-E, and we'll go thoroughly into how we utilize ChatGPT. Be aware when using these tools, the environment you are in. Globally, schools are adapting different tools. We are moving incredibly fast in the world of generative AI. So depending when you're listening to this, please do have a look at what is being utilized within your school, within your board, and make sure that you are using those tools as well. And you are aware of any policies before introducing any of this straight into the classroom. So let's get started with an introduction to generative AI. So first of all, what is generative AI? As you can see from the toolkit, there is a very clear, concise definition. It trains on very large data sets. A data set you can think of as everything on Microsoft Bing or on Google or on YouTube. It will collect all of that data and then look at the commonality. What's the pattern? By understanding and having so much data, it can predict really fast new outcomes and exactly what it is you are looking for. AI has been part of our lives for a while. We've seen it when we get recommendations on YouTube, when we are looking for music to listen to on Spotify. Generative AI is even more intuitive and is faster in pace, and that's why we're very, very excited about its utilization. Now, one of the things we need to make very aware when using generative AI is AI does not understand anything. It is not a thinking tool. What it is doing is predicting the next thing. And it's important that we fully understand that. And that large language models themselves can also cause a lot of issues in terms of what it's predicting next. And we'll come into that. Now, how I want you to be using generative AI and explaining how to utilize it is using AI as a co-pilot. We do not want these tools to be the pilot driving us into the direction that they believe we should go in. We want them to be that assistant that maybe we can't really afford day to day. We now can. We can access an assistant that can really help us supercharge our productivity and our creativity. It should only complement the work that you are doing. How we give examples of how you can use generative AI within the classroom is to summarize extensive notes into key points. For example, if you have heavy, long text that you've read for a while and you're really not getting it, it's not being digested, it's not sitting and you're not learning it. We've been in that position. You can ask ChatGPT to take that text and to convert it into bullet points. This works often for people who think in smaller chunks, the neurodiverse, who would like something that's easier to digest. The other way that we use generative AI in the classroom is to generate fresh practice questions for exam preparation. Where a tutor may not be accessible, where we may not have enough materials to keep trying things out, or the level of frustrations humans have with each other, when as a parent, I might have to repeat myself to my child over and over again, ChatGPT will continue to generate what you need to revise and to learn, so you can ask it to aid you and support you in your learning. And one of the beautiful things that we've seen and children absolutely adore is the fact that it can create images and videos for school projects. We may not all be the greatest artists. We may not be able to get to the tools to create something in an animation style, in a minimalistic style. So AI is a co-pilot that can help all these types of activities. And that's something we will enjoy looking at as we work through the program. So let's start with, first of all, understanding how to utilize generative AI and the difference between searching and prompting. We've all used the internet and used devices through the access of searching, and it's been incredibly supportive when we're looking for new information. When we're searching, we will go to our search engine and we will type in what we're looking for. So if we're a student who's looking to find out about the history of the Roman Empire, this is exactly where we start. We go to a tool, we type in the history of the Roman Empire. But let's have a look at what happens. The results that we obtain are vast. You can get more than 900 million searches to aid you with finding out information about the Roman Empire. The first couple may be sponsored. They may be about a TikTok trend that has nothing to do with your school homework, or it may be a curriculum that's not in your side of the globe. So it's not helping the information that you require. So searching has its limitation, while prompting is very different. Prompting, you can give more information and be more clear and concise. It's giving instructions, what we call prompts, being able to craft prompts to get the AI to generate a desired output. It's extremely helpful. Now, I've had many people say to me, oh, I've tried ChatGPT and it really didn't work for me. It didn't give me the results I wanted. And for that, it's really because they haven't put in the right prompt. We first have to understand that a prompt is actually a skill. There's something that we're going to have to learn. So let's pause here and look at the elements of a good prompt, and we can go through this together. Now, I've created a prompt which I have utilized, and I will read this one to you. Act as a helpful tutor who breaks down complex subjects into easy explanations. I want you to explain the process of photosynthesis to a 14-year-old student to assist with their biology exam preparations. Your answer should be 300 words, written in a tone that's friendly and educational. So first off the bat, I'm giving a lot more information than I do in a search. I'm making sure that I am, first of all, telling ChatGPT the persona that I want it to act as. I've asked it, can you act as a helpful tutor? Prompting it to have the tone, the voice, and the expertise of a tutor. The next thing is I'm telling it clearly what my objective is. My objective is, what do you want the AI to do? I'm saying explain the process of photosynthesis. Once I've done that, I've told ChatGPT the audience that I'm looking to speak to. I'm being specific about who I'm speaking to is a 14-year-old student. And then I'm giving it context. Why do I need this? I need it to assist with the biology exam preparation. And finally, I'm giving it boundaries. I've set the direction and the limitation to 300 words and the tone I want to receive the information in. And that is a clear crafted prompt. Now, this sheet that you see before you on the screen, we've made it available as a downloadable PDF, and we do recommend that you tell educators to take this and put it into their classrooms. So we're continuously reiterating and reminding ourselves the need and how we get a prompt. Now, tip 1, give clear instructions. The more information you give ChatGPT, the clearer it will be. Experiment with the words you're using. Explain, translate, summarize, compare. Tip 2, provide context. The more context you give it, the more it's going to give you exactly what you want. For example, mention the project type, such as a short story, a report, or an outline. And 3, iterate and experiment. Again, I will say this so many times, but try different instructions and technique. If you don't get the results you want, prompting can really help by experimentation. Try several rounds, especially when you're new to it. It's important you do that. And that leads us straight into a try it yourself to get familiar with LLMs. So this is a great try it yourself. Let's read through it together. Let's warm up with some prompting exercises to get familiar with generative AI tools. As you progress through this toolkit, there will be plenty of opportunities to pick up skills for interacting with these tools. Remember that outputs may differ based on the prompts and the specific AI tools you are using. The task. You want to produce a short animated series to help students learn about science and have decided that the first episode is about photosynthesis. It's time to use the LLM to assist you. Step 1. We may have done this at the beginning of this toolkit. If you haven't, please take your time to do this now. Use Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. Step 2. Brainstorm with clear instructions. Try these prompts. Explain the process of photosynthesis in simple terms. 2. List 10 keywords and their definition relevant to photosynthesis. 3. Write an outline for a short video about photosynthesis. Once you've done that, step 3, apply the elements of a good prompt to craft your own. Here we've given an example of a good prompt. Act as a screenwriter. I want to write a screenplay for an 8-year-old student to learn about photosynthesis. Your answer will be written in a happy and child-friendly tone and long enough for 30 seconds. Please go ahead and try that. And once you've done that, step 4, reiterate the prompt so the output is for 3-minute educational video for 15-year-old students, changing the persona, objective, audience, and context, and boundaries to foresee what the new results the AI will generate. Please take your time, pause here, and go through this try it yourself. Now you've taken time to go through that activity, I hope you could see the difference between the prompts and your outputs. If you are in a classroom setting or you are with other trainers, please do take your time to have a look at the outcomes that have happened for others and see how they differ to what you got and why that's happened. It'll give you a real understanding how nuanced ChatGPT can be, dependent on what information you give it. So let's move on. And the characters that I mentioned before, it's now time to be introduced to them. Gina's fight for the ocean. When we meet Gina, we find out she's a teen advocate and she's ambitious and passionate about the environment. She's on a mission of empowering people through knowledge, through journalism, and she wants to write an article. She wants to bring power to the conversation, and she's keen to make sure that she fact checks and is very responsible with the information that she's given. Gina's on a fresh investigation to report on the devastating impact of the plastic pollution on the beloved sea turtle population. She wants to paint a picture that will grip the hearts and minds of her readers, captivating them with an article. Realizing the gigantic task ahead, Gina decides to use the power of generative AI to assist her in creating an outline that would help her formulate her article. So Gina straight away has realized that she wants to do something that is very large in scale, and she needs a starting position. So she's using generative AI as a co-pilot. She's using it to assist her. What she's not doing is asking generative AI to write the article for her. And this is very important when you're bringing it into the classroom, that we reiterate that we are using it as a tool to assist. So when a child is starting an assignment or a project, if they're stuck, if there's a creative block, one of the things we can do is say, why don't we start with a prompt? And in this case, Gina's prompt is, write an outline for a newspaper article that highlights the consequences of the plastic pollution on the sea turtle population. And that's what she puts in. And this leads us to a try it yourself, which we will go through together. So this try it yourself is to compose an outline. An effective way of interacting with generative AI tools is by tapping in its ability to generate ideas and outlines. Using Compose in Copilot is a great start for writing, as you see, set the tone, the format, the length. The key is getting the results you want to experiment with the prompts and setting to generate different outputs until you're pleased. Now, in this example, we have used Compose in Copilot. If you in your setting, you're unable to access this, do feel free to use ChatGPT as well, or Meta AI, and follow the instructions on the right. Step 2, reiterate an experiment. We're saying that again. What happens when you change the tone to casual, the format to the paragraph, a newspaper article to a fiction story? Give everyone the time to do these and to experiment. You may feel they need less time, but what we found is this is where the true learning and experience really comes to life. Once you've done that, step 3, discuss with the class what happened to the results after you changed the prompts and the settings. You can see on the right-hand side that there is more information for you to go through. Write the prompt, try the prompt itself. The prompt that we've given is the same as Gina's. Write an outline for a newspaper article that highlights the consequences of plastic pollution on the sea turtle population. Choose the informational tone, choose the ideas, if you want it in a paragraph, email, ideas, or a blog, and then choose the length and generate the draft. Again, you can put this in ChatGPT if it's easier to do, and go ahead and experiment. Pause here and try that out. Great, once you've done that, let's have a look at the AI output that we've shown that Gina has got. Now, the output she has, you can see, first of all, when using these tools, the outputs are always beautifully laid out and easy to access and understand. So what Gina has got is an introduction, then she has something that provides compelling evidence where it's given her some facts to work with, and then a conclusion to surmise it all. But if you take a closer look and examine the information that the AI has produced, you can see that it's fabricated a lot of the facts and the information. So we need to reiterate here the clear importance to verify and fact check. This is so incredibly important because one of the risks of ChatGPT and generative AI tools on the whole is they fabricate. Fabrications can occur a lot and they don't match the truth. The reason behind this is going back to how I explained generative AI works. It works by working on large language models and looking at the patterns. Now, patterns are predictions, and sometimes those predictions are wrong. So we cannot blindly trust their outputs. And it's very important, especially when working on schoolwork, we need to ensure that we understand the concept of disinformation and that we can fact check. And we've done this as a try it yourself as well. If you move on, you can say, we're going to ask our character, we're going to help our character, Gina, fact check the statements that generative AI have outputted to her. So what we've done is we've looked at what they are, and we are going to check the verification process. We've asked these key questions. Who is the author of the source? Do they have a good track record? Who published the website? Is it a trustworthy website like a university or a news outlet? Or is it published by a regular person on their personal blogs? Is there a financial or political motive for the source to be publishing this information? These are incredibly important questions that we need to give the logical thinking, because it often isn't intuitive that we need to be asking these questions of these tools. We often start to, through convenience, expect these tools to do exactly what they want and to give us the right information. Much like when you're doing a Bing or Google search, they come up with many, many things, and we have to go through them and think critically, is this correct? Is this true? We have to do the same with ChatGPT too. And you can see that we've shown through the output of the Gina's try it yourself that not all these statements are true, reiterating the absolute need to go away and check the source. Moving forward, the character Gina has gone upon herself to find an authentic source, to have a conversation, to get those facts and figures firsthand. And she's done this by seeking out an expert in the field. In this scenario, you'll be introduced to Dr. Lee, a famous marine biologist whose expertise will breathe life into the investigation and give it authenticity. During this, Gina records the words through a tool, a generative AI tool that will help her transcribe the information and take on all the information the interview has. And you can see from the next slide, we will go through the conversation she has with Dr. Lee. Through the conversation, she understands Dr. Lee's email address. She understands what information is confidential or not. We can see Gina is very authentic to her job. She's making sure she's asking the right questions, and she wants to afterwards send the article to Dr. Lee when it comes out, so finds out more information about that. Now, what she's actually done is she's transcribed this, and this information is what we understand to be online personal information. And this is the next key point we need to bring to life with the students within the classroom, that when we put in information into generative AI tools, there is a question about online privacy, and we have to safeguard important information. So we should not be putting our full name, email addresses, phone numbers, home addresses, and other sensitive data into third-party tools. As generative AI gets bigger, you can search your app stores, your Google Play stores. You'll see that there are a lot more tools coming out, and we cannot always be sure what is happening to our data, which third parties will have access to our data. So we need to monitor what we are putting into tools and ensure we can decipher what is private information and what is public information. And we move on with the character of Gina to identify the sensitive information. This is an incredibly important task to do with the students in the classroom, for educators to understand as well, especially if you're going to start using ChatGPT to generate school reports to help you with student information. We need to critically think through, should I be putting this information into a third-party tool? So you can see here that we've asked to identify what is the sensitive information and have gone on to reveal what that sensitive information is. And it's the email addresses, it's the address. All of this should not be put into a generative AI tool. So that's something to get across. So now we've understood through this character some of the issues that you can see. The next couple of slides also highlight one of the wonderful things you can do with generative AI, but also the issues as well. For Gina to complete a robust article, it would not be complete without a visual aid. And where before it may have been very hard for Gina to come up with the right photo, or she would have to lean on a stock image that had been utilized time and time again. This time, Gina employs Image Creator, a generative AI tool that can create images. Images are incredibly powerful to bring in text to life. She has some ideas of the type of images she wants to generate. She quickly enters into the following prompt and keenly awaits the results. You can see here Gina's prompt. A scientist holding up a plastic bottle with the ocean in the background. And you see her first attempt. You can see on the picture there depicts a Caucasian male scientist, which is quite different to what we saw Dr. Micah Lee look like, who is actually a female scientist and is not Caucasian. So one of the things we want to point out here is there is a clear bias with generative AI. There's a reinforcement of stereotypes and biases. Why this happens is we're actually working on large language models. Large language models is created by data that humans have put into the site that they've collected it from. And humans by nature have bias. So we have to be aware that many of these tools have bias baked into them. So we need to teach those critical thinking skills to look at how can we decipher if there is bias. Some of the other activities we get the children to do is to write in, show me a picture of a judge, show me a picture of a doctor, and see what the outputs are. Are they seeing any bias? And does it relate to the stats and the information that is real? And often it doesn't. We want to discourage that use of only one type of homogeneous look when it comes to creativity. So once we get children to understand that, they can start playing around and looking at what other attempts or visuals they can have. In our situation, Gina creates a new prompt. She's reiterating and experimenting, something to make sure that we put across the importance of iteration and experimentation. So Gina's prompt here is a close-up shot of a hand holding a plastic bottle with the ocean in the background. This is a second attempt. Gina decides to try again. The second attempt does look better, but it still doesn't convey the devastating plastic pollution. It's not working for her article. So she continues. Her next prompt is a photo of the ocean filled with plastic bottles with sea turtles in the background. And what you can see is from her first prompt, and make sure that you reiterate and you show the difference where her first prompt started to her third prompt. She's carried on experimenting until she's got exactly what she wants. And she's ended up with this very cute animated picture of a sea turtle in a plastic pollution, showing the vast devastation and the point behind her article. Now we come across another try it yourself. Let's go through this together. Become an AI-powered artist. Besides working with text, generative AI tools and LLMs can also create images and videos. Try being Image Creator, for example. If you can transform your text prompts into stunning images with a bit of prompt engineering and experimentation, remember to always cite and credit AI-generated content into your work. So let's go through these steps together. Step 1, go to Image Creator. Again, if you are in a setting where you're finding that hard to access, DALL-E is another place where you can go. Step 2, enter the prompt sea turtles, then click create. Very simple. Step 3, iterate your result by adding more details to your prompt. Try adding swimming gracefully in a vibrant coral reef at the end of your prompt. Step 4, now let's stylize your output. Add one of the following to the end of your prompt. In a photorealistic style, in the style of Van Gogh, in the pop art style. You can see
you will come up with amazingly different types of visuals. If you are in a classroom setting or you have many educators you're working with, please do take this time to share, because this really is powerful and brings to life how quickly and how efficient this is and how it can bring creativity into our learning process. It really helps children who really think visually as well. You can do this for their homework. You can bring it in to really reiterate a deep piece of text that you're doing. There's so many ways we can start using images within our educational process. But now at this point, we are ready to publish. And Gina has got her article. She's gone through the issues she's had, and you can see how she's effectively used generative AI as a co-pilot. And that's incredibly important to reassert here. She did not get ChatGPT to write the entire article for her. She did not rely on it as a fact-checking source, and she did not rely on the first image that was created. She used the whole thing to bring her own thoughts and her own human agency to life. Now we'll move on to our second character. Our second character is built very differently to Gina to really show the diversity of how you can use generative AI in different careers. Let's meet Alex. He's an avid gamer and an amateur coder. He's got 18 months under his belt of coding, but he has some great ideas and really wants to bring a new idea, the cosmic adventure, into reality. He starts by using the tool of ChatGPT and the tool of prompts to get himself started. He's using it as a co-pilot. He already has an idea and he wants to bring it to life. So let's have a look at Alex's prompt and where he starts with the idea generation. I'm developing an immersive online space adventure game with 3 main characters to accompany players on their journey. Please help me craft 3 distinct characters, complete with name, personal traits, signature catchphrases, and distinctive physical attributes. What we can see from what Alex has done is he's really given a lot of information to the prompt, so he gets exactly what he wants from it. He's already given that he wants 3 main characters, and he's also put across the key points he needs and the elements to come to life. And you can see the AI output has given him 3 distinct looks that are original and creative and inspired by his own prompt. So here he doesn't need to think about plagiarism because it's come from his own mind. And it's really important when we're creating images that we speak to children about plagiarism and not stealing things that do not belong to them, and be really mindful that they are creating ideas and thoughts that are unique to them. And what we can see now is we start with a try it yourself. And let's go through this together. Craft your own character. A handy prompt engineering tip when you're working with LLMs is to provide extra information or context. Giving context means explaining your thoughts or offering background details so that the AI can better grasp what you're trying to achieve. In Alex's prompt, he gives a lot of context around the game he's building and the types of characters he wants to create. He then includes very clear instructions of the different elements he wants from the LLM, such as names, personality, traits, catchphrases, and physical attributes. The try it yourself has 4 steps. First of all, step 1, use Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. Step 2, fill in the blanks from this prompt. So here you can ask the educator or the students to cut and paste this prompt or carefully write it down and write it as it is. The prompt goes, I want to create a character profile for and here they can insert their own themed online game, where the main character will be embarking on an unforgettable adventure. This character needs to be and here we ask the student to insert their own adjective to create their own personality. This way you can see the outcomes will be incredibly different from what a person sitting next to you will be, depending on the adjective that you choose here. Please help me craft a distinct character profile, including a name, a defining personality, traits, a signature catchphrase, and a physical attribute. Step 3, generate the character profile and share your results with the class. Step 4, as always, experiment with your results by changing the theme and the adjective to see what else the LLM may come up with it. And here, spend some time, have a discussion, and look at the outputs. It's a very, very exciting try it yourself that the kids absolutely adore and love to do. And if you're going through this toolkit yourself, please pause here and definitely give it a try. We've got to a point with our character now. He's very excited. You can see your ideas and your life come into fruition. And as always, when we get excited, we often turn to those around us to really discuss what we're doing. And in this case, our character is having a conversation with his best friend, who is also happens to be an e-sport champion. They're both very passionate and they get themselves into a conversation. When we go through this conversation, you can see that they're looking at how they can bring these characters to life. And one of the ideas Ash has, as we look at it, is, have you thought about making these characters AI powered? That your players can ask them for help and chat to them like friends. And let's have a look at Alex's response. I'm not sure that's a good idea. I don't want players to get too attached to their AI characters, you know. They're not real. After all, it might not be healthy for players to treat them like real friends. Ash, on reflection, says, you have a good point, Alex. It might get confusing for people to remember that AI isn't human. This is another point where we are going to pause and look at the risk behind this issue. Now, there are a lot of AI companionship tools that are launching. The feeling of ChatGPT can often be that it is a thinking product or machine, something that we looked at the beginning of this presentation. We must remember it is not thinking, it is creating patterns. But we have seen an over-reliance or a worry about our students and adults becoming heavily reliant on AI for relationships and how that will affect our mental health. We need to think through how we have these conversations and have critical thinking through whether we want this to happen, and if children understand relationships that they form in the real world that are heavily nuanced, can be negative, are not predictive in nature, why they are really important, and what we need to worry about AI that are looking like they have the capacity for human emotion, but they don't. You cannot have human and emotional support from a tool as you would in the real world. And it's an assertion that we need to make here. Moving on, let's have a look at Alex and how the storytelling goes through how he's using ChatGPT to bring this game to life. So the next thing that Alex does is he wants to use the tools to actually bring to life the game. One of the powerful things that you can do with tools is you can create code. So if you're not a coder, we need not worry anymore, because we can get these things done. And here Alex has created a prompt to get these characters to start moving. Let's have a look at Alex's prompt. I want to give players control of their characters. Can you provide me with a code for the character's movement controls? Let's start with a basic arrow key input to navigate the game world. Now let's have a look at the output. Now the output will come out as code in black and white. And if you try this yourself, you'll see it. You do not need to understand this code. You can utilize this code and it will provide a basic foundations for the characters to move. We want people to try this themselves and to see how powerful it is. So we lead straight into it, try it yourself. And as always, let's go through this together. Code an online game. Generative AI tools that have the ability to quickly create code have really excited software engineers and new developers like Alex. These tools promise to boost their productivity, giving creators the power to turn their ideas into reality faster and with fewer resources. Let's put this to the test by using generative AI to build a simple online game. Step 1, use Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. Step 2, enter this prompt. Write a HTML code for a simple guess the number game. Step 3, copy the code that was generated. Okay, step 4, go to this type it into your search bar. It's as fiddle.net. If you copy and paste that, it will be a lot easier. And paste the code under the HTML box and press run. And it's as simple as that. You create code like that quickly and put it into the right tool. You can now allow the people to experiment, play the guess the number game. We've seen some wonderful things happen when we've been training and utilizing this try it yourself. We've seen how educators have thought through how they can bring English textbooks to life by creating a word search or a crossword. Think about the use cases of how we can bring to life games, bring to life educational ideas by utilizing coding. This is a great conversation to play out and have with the children. Moving on, with all of these ideas, all of these opportunities that we've discovered within the workshop, one of the biggest issues we really need to close on is the actual safety and the cybersecurity behind using these tools. One of the issues we have is the need for convenience. When we're downloading generative AI tools, we want to just get going. We want to try them out. We often aren't thinking about what we're downloading. And unfortunately, much like the rest of the internet, we will find cyber criminals coming in and trying to create havoc in this new world. So we have to be really aware about the security that we teach when bringing these tools into the classroom. So please ensure that we go through the tips as Alex, the character, does as well when considering safeguarding the users who will be using his games. So here are some of the tips that we find incredibly important and to assert within a training or when speaking to students. First of all, proactively download apps only from verified or trusted developers. When you go to on a Google or an app store, you can see who's developed it. Have a look at the reviews, have a look at who's utilizing it. When you're bringing it into the classroom, make sure it's authorized by the school or the body that you speak to who look at your IT needs. Secondly, always look at the lock symbol when you visit a website. If it is unlocked, that means there is no security on that site, and you do not want to be putting data or inputting any information into a site that has no security. Another way to check if the site is secure is to check is it a HTTPS or a HTTP. If it's a HTTP up in that search bar, there is no security there. We only want to be going to URLs with an HTTPS at the beginning, so do check that. The next point is never ever download games or apps or other files from unknown or untrusted sources in the URL. This is as important when we've been using the internet in the past and as important now using these generative AI tools. And always keep your device and apps updated. Always leave the presentation or leave the understanding through the toolkit of the importance of our digital well-being. Already, screen time has become problematic for many of us when we have a device each and we can utilize it to access the world, be it entertainment, be it reels, to be it videos or schoolwork itself. We're spending a lot of time online, and we must continue with all training in technical areas within the school to always come back to our digital well-being and give that critical thinking skills to our children about how they use these tools, but how long they use these tools for as well. So some of the key points that we must reiterate every time is to set screen time limits. This is also true when it comes to the world of generative AI. We can get absorbed and we can start utilizing it a lot. So create boundaries for yourself around the screen time you use. Find a balance between your interactions in the real world and the virtual one. And this is something we've touched upon, but always keep saying it. Remember, AI is not a replacement for humans. Generative AI does not have the nuance, it does not have the humanity that you have with your friends in the real world. It may reply to you efficiently, quickly, and say what you wanted to say, but that is not true of reality. And so we need to know where this plays a role in our lives as a co-pilot and does not become the pilot in our students' lives. Be ready to talk about your feelings. Be open to talking about your feelings. We don't want children to be resorting to chatbots and having communications online with generative AI and not talking about it outside. And to be aware of checking in with our friends all the time. So we end here with Alex's journey. We see how he uses the potential generative AI, as well as critically thinking through risks, plagiarism being one of them, the risks of generating things that are not supportive to his users and can be ineffective to their mental health. Alex has, as a character, really thought through the game, but also launched an incredibly successful game as well.
Let's go through the key takeaways. Remember, AI is your co-pilot. Think of generative AI tools as your helpful assistant, but you need to remain in control, the pilot, and using it to support you in your commands and your tasks. We want to be safe and responsible in our usage. We need to check the results that generative AI tools are giving us. Fact checking remains an incredibly important thing to be doing when we see the information that's coming from our tools. Always verify with a trusted source and not just take the source from generative AI without checking. It's incredibly important as well, we protect our information. Do not share private information in untrusted websites or apps. And before bringing a generative AI tool into the classroom and utilizing with students, read the privacy policies and understand how your data will be used and ensure you're safe while using the product. And be aware of bias. Generative AI models can sometimes show bias in their response. Be sure to review the outputs. Use your critical thinking, use a critical eye, and be incredibly proactive and adjust the prompts where you feel it's necessary. AI is not perfect. It can do a lot of things and it's incredibly supportive, but it can make mistakes because it's trained to always provide an answer. So we need to stay alert when using the product. When utilizing the products as well, using generative AI tools, ensure that we give credit where it's due and cite the work that we're using. If your students or yourself are using generative AI, be open where you used it and how it helped you. And lastly, always be mindful of your well-being. Communicating with large language models can sound like an incredibly natural conversation, and that can be really tricky. We need to establish boundaries as we bring generative AI into our world and ensure that we limit the screen time that we're using and continue to form relationships with our loved ones, with our family, and with our friends as well, and not become over-reliant on the tools.
Thank you very much for taking your time to go through this presentation. If you have any further questions, you can get hold of us at cyberlight.org. We're happy to support or help you in any way. Thank you very much.